If you don't respect your elders, these elders will make you respect them. A request I've seen pretty frequently is to cover the senior citizens in fighting games. In tropes of martial arts movies, the elderly fighter has the knowledge and skills from decades of fighting and is only really hindered by his frail body. Fighting games follow this model to an extent and make these old-timers some of the coolest and hardest to master in the game. I'll be judging them based on their mastery of fighting and appearance, especially since some fighting game characters are thousands of years old but don't look a day over 30. We need to see some gray hair at the very least. I'm also going to limit entries at 2 characters per series of origin, since I know a couple of franchises that would dominate the list otherwise. And while not a requirement, I'll be giving bonus points to the elders that took a student under their wing, since a good master passes down their legacy and can still jump in the ring easily with the youngins.
You know it.
And in case you're wondering, that voice is my co-host, Judgment Meter. She says things of varying relevancy.
That's me!
So let's begin the top 10 senior citizens in fighting games. Number 10, Nicotine Caffeine from Samurai Showdown. Let's address that name. I've never understood why they went with it. It's just 2 stimulants. It's the same in Japanese as it is in English, so it's not just a poorly translated joke. I guess they're 2 nouns with something in common. To add to that theme, he's the chief priest in a temple called Cocaine, which is a pun on cocaine, yet another stimulant. Not sure if all of these words have a secret meaning about the old man himself.
It explains exactly what he enjoys in life, or what's most important to him. He looks a little buzzed, a little bit.
I could see him loving cigarettes and soda, since even his breath can hurt you, and he's all hyped up when fighting, being super fast.
Good for him.
His age may have diminished his strength, but not his speed. He's an agile little guy. Even if he's not as physically strong as he was in his prime, he has the power of magic on his side. He uses word paper and spells that are both great for exorcising demons and fending off against some cat girl with a boomerang. Same type of threat, really. While his weapon is a staff, he was once a master swordsman in his youth, taking his skills and training the main character Haomaru and his rival Genjuro. Not only does he help the younger generation improve their skill sets, but he gets free sparring sessions too. He clearly loves fighting because the smile never leaves his face when on the battlefield. Number 9, Wang Jinrei from Tekken. Wang may not be the most interesting character, but I have to give him credit that if we were to go by the pure age of Tekken characters, he would win by far, not counting characters utilizing supernatural elements. That alone deserves a spot for how age-defying he is. He was in his 80s in the first 2 Tekken games, meaning after the time skip, he was around 105 years old. He still had all the strength and skill that he had in his 80s by the time of Tekken 6, so I guess he just said screw it all to the effects of aging. All his attacks seem to be effective against these young guns that lack his centuries worth of experience. His overall impact in the series has been negligible to say the least, only having major motivation in Tekken 5 when his best friend Jinpachi returned from the dead and wanting to see how that was even possible. I'm not sure if he's taken on many pupils in his lifetime, but he's at least trained Zhao Yu, as seen in his Tekken Tag Tournament ending. His Tekken Tag 2 ending obliterates the 4th wall when Jinpachi tells Wang that he's only around because the developers didn't have the heart to kill off a no-name like him. But Wang argues that his awesome popularity with the fans kept him alive, though when you Google Wang's name, the first autofill result is dead. Glad to see I was not the only one concerned about his fate. Maybe that part of his Tekken 6 ending where he dies is canon now, or maybe his popularity that he spoke of could truly make him immortal.
You win.
Number 8, Genfu from Dead or Alive. You cannot root against Genfu. He has the most noble reason for participating in the tournament. He needs the winner's money to get treatment for his granddaughter's rare illness. Now do you feel bad for beating down this old man? So between all of this drama with the ninjas and assassins and military is an elderly bookstore owner who just wants to help his family and happens to know martial arts. He doesn't need revenge on someone, unlike all these other characters.
Are you sure? Look at those eyes.
Hey, he's fighting for a good cause. He has no ulterior motive. No ulterior motive! He wins the second tournament and helps his granddaughter make a recovery, and then he joins the third tournament since she still needs more surgery, but by the time of the fourth and the fifth tournament, little Mei Lin has fully recovered, so now he's just on the roster for fun. Besides going home to be a family man and tending to his bookstore, he trains the fighter Elliot in the ways of his martial arts that I cannot pronounce the name of correctly. Whether or not Genfu is retired for good is unclear, but at the very least, Elliot can carry on Genfu's legacy with his promotional artwork pose.
My fists only get stronger with age.
Number 7, Lao from Virtua Fighter. Lao was always a veteran fighter in the series, only being behind Shun-Di in age, but it wasn't until Virtua Fighter 5 that his age started to show. Before that, he looked old enough to be a member of AARP, but too young for the senior discount at Dunkin' Donuts, so I probably would not have considered him as a true senior citizen at that point in his life. Virtua Fighter 5, though, changes that, as he was the only character to show physical signs of a passage of time. Other characters only changed their polygon makeup over the years, but for Lao, I can't quite explain what happened to him.
Well, first of all, he has white hair, so clearly there's something there.
Well, yes, I know that. I mean, why did they choose to age him up specifically? His bio states he's suffering from an illness in more recent games, so they likely made his hair gray to indicate this effect on his body, or because he just stopped using Just for Men. Regardless, he's always been portrayed as the most experienced fighter with his Tiger Swallow Fist style. He won the first tournament to show his dominance, and then went back to his life of training and cooking. That's right, this man is not merely a full-time martial artist, he's a professional chef, and I love him more now.
Aw, he likes Chinese pottery. That's a cute hobby. Wait, does he like collecting it or making it?
Neither, it says Chinese poetry. Despite not having a direct student, part of his motivation for fighting is to find the perfect successor for his school, so he's trying. Regardless of who takes over, even if his age is catching up to him, Lao's fighting style will still remain advanced and deadly when he's the one using it in the ring. Number 6, Tang Fu Ru from Fatal Fury. He was the teacher of series protagonist Terry Bogard, Terry's father, and series antagonist Geese Howard, so Tang has connections to the most important characters in Fatal Fury. In addition, he took in the protagonist of King of Fighters 14 as his last pupil, so he's all over the timeline of SNK fighting games.
Oh, does he open his eyes?
Mostly no.
Aw, he's too tired for that. I like how much he looks like he's concentrating. He's really deep in thought.
While he has mastered plenty of hand-to-hand combat attacks, his most unique and memorable gimmick is that he can infuse ki into his body and make himself super buff.
Why does his top get larger but not his bottom? Look at my abs!
He just goes all Incredible Hulk for a moment to kick your ass, or sometimes he pumps all the muscle into one part of his body to preserve ki. Some games make his real body muscular, while others make his big form a solid illusion, but either way, it further demonstrates what anime has taught me about ki and senior citizens. Basically, the lesson is ki can help defy the ill effects of aging by briefly restoring someone to the prime of their youth. It worked for Roshi, it worked for Genkai, and it worked for Tang Fu Ru. Also, he can use the energy to turn his hands into rocket-powered gloves. Who wouldn't have a fun time with that? Number 5, Chen Gensai from King of Fighters. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Despite his goofy demeanor from being intoxicated while fighting, he's a very knowledgeable martial arts master. He lives in seclusion with little explained about his past, and chooses to train the Psycho Soldiers with his experience to help them control and maximize their gifted power. They have psychic abilities, and apparently Zhen is an expert on it. I'll roll with it. After his students won some tournaments, he takes the role of master by warning them about letting fame and arrogance get to their heads and prevents them from putting themselves in the way of danger. He understands the severity of the various threats in King of Fighters and does not let his inebriation get in the way of his logic. His wisdom is certainly an interesting contrast from his more disheveled appearance.
I like him. He couldn't even see if he wanted to. Look at his hair.
Don't underestimate him based on how he looks. He could destroy you with ease. He may primarily use the drunken fist, but his history states that he's a master of every type of Chinese kung fu imaginable.
Aw, he likes yo-yos. And liquor.
You could have figured out that he likes booze without that being slapped on his bio.
Oh no, we can't be friends. He doesn't like understand us. Oh, no, wait, but he likes taking naps. Oh, man, this is hard.
You know, just ignore the profile when deciding if you like him or not.
He's cute. I think he'll be my favorite.
Whoa, it's too early to decide that. We're only halfway through the list. You haven't even heard my inevitable Oro segment yet.
No, I don't like him. His eyes are weird.
Hey, give him a break. He's elderly.
No, his eyes are weird. It's because he's weird, not because he's old.
Anyway, love him or hate him, Mr. Gensai is the drunken master who has more than just a jug of sake hidden up his sleeve. Number 4, Goken from Street Fighter. This is the perfect execution of an elder master of a protagonist. Everything about him feels like an upgrade from Ryu. His moves are advanced versions of the standard Shoto fighting style. He can fire 2 Hadokens at once. His Tatsumaki rises upwards and feels like it hits a lot harder. He even has moves that are similar to Akuma's, but less demon-y, like the Demon Flip, not the best nickname when Goken uses it. And he has a move that glides him forward to deliver a single hard-hitting punch of justice, reminding me of the Ashura Senku minus the Dark Hado. The only regular Shoto attack not in his base moveset is the Shoryuken, which he saves for his super moves. The first hit of his Shin Shoryuken makes you feel like you're already dead. He also has a counterattack, which is a good representation of his mastery of martial arts, predicting the movements of the youngins and swatting them many feet away. It also appears time has not caught up with him, since he is ripped at the age of, I don't know, and when he begins a match, the power cannot be contained inside his body. I guess the main thing that hampers him in strength is proper fighting game balance. The only opponent that seemed to be too much for Goken was his brother Akuma. It was a definitive win for Akuma as he killed Goken, but it turned out with the power of, we want him in the game, we learned Goken emptied his soul of all emotions and went into a deep coma that apparently had no ill effects on his body. Well, that's a convenient skill they totally planned from the start. I'm glad he's back and better than ever. Defeat him and maybe you'll stand a chance. Number 3, Joseph Joestar from the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure fighting game. Based on the Stardust Crusaders arc in the series, the JoJo's fighting game developed by Capcom was a great way to put the series in video game form with all these over-the-top moves and a perfect art style. Joseph Joestar has an advantage over the other characters on this list since he has full manga arcs that bolster his backstory, but even judging him on the fighting game alone, he's pretty badass. His arcade story summarizes the manga, where he finds his grandson Jotaro, teaches him about their supernatural power known as a stand, and teams up with him to kill the vampire Dio to save Jotaro's mother. A big part of Joseph's gameplay is his stand named Hermit Purple, which usually comes out as a bunch of tentacles that he controls from his arm. While Purple can pack a punch just being utilized as such, it thrives on grabbing the opponent and shocking them. You know you have great options when you can just reach halfway across the screen and strangle, leaving your opponent a bit stunned. Or he can just turn Hermit Purple into a massive electrified jab. Or just grab normally without any of the purple and all the hermit, all the electricity. Even without his stand available, Joseph can still put up a good fight on his own. He's kept himself in great shape at his age. Number 2, Oro from Street Fighter. Oro is possibly the oldest human character in the game, having history dating back to the early 1900s when he moves to Brazil. There, he ultimately became a hermit and learned the secret skills of Senjutsu. Other than that, he mostly trains in seclusion with occasional ventures into society. That being said, he's perfectly fine showing off his hermit lifestyle when traveling to town. He's got on a robe implying he doesn't need modern clothing, the teeth of someone who has no need for fluoride, and is holding on to the last of his hair as if he's in denial about going bald. He basically has the hair situation of Homer Simpson, and they both have bright yellow skin. I think we have a hypothesis about Oro's past now. Despite all this, he seems pretty friendly. If you want to train under him, just be prepared to carry a heavy rock or two. Besides potentially being the oldest character, he may also be the strongest. He he has to restrain one of his arms just so his opponent can stand a chance. Of all of the one-armed attacks he has from this restriction, his throws are probably the coolest to me. And they gave him a projectile because why not? The super move version of it is basically him tossing the sun at you. The Spirit Bomb's got nothing on this. Who likes honorable mentions? Gen from Street Fighter. I've always liked his stance switching techniques, and if I didn't have that pesky 2 per series restriction, he likely would have been a contender for top 5. Shang Tsung from Mortal Kombat. He's hundreds of years old and switches off from being an old man and a young guy, mostly because he's a sorcerer whose age doesn't matter when fighting. He stays young by stealing the souls of anyone who crosses his path.
And he eats them for dinner.
No, he just absorbs them. That being said, what would a soul taste like?
Smoke and char.
Where there is
Smoke, char.
Overall, Old Man Shang seems to be the favorite among fans, unless he's up against Young Man Shang played by Cary Tagawa. Luckily, Mortal Kombat 11 doesn't make us have to choose. Shun Di from Virtua Fighter. Oh, another elderly drunken fighter. Looks like I have some candidates for my inevitable drunken fighting game characters list. Zeku from Street Fighter, the original Strider. Waldstein from Under Night in Birth. Respect the claws. The Goketsuji sisters and Power Instinct. They hold the distinction of being the only elderly females that I could find in non-licensed fighting games, and their bosses, and creepy. And Edgemaster from Soul Calibur. I like the concept of him being a mimic fighter with the explanation that he has spent his entire life mastering every fighting style imaginable. However, they make it ambiguous whether he's some otherworldly figure that's hundreds of years old or just a wise old man. I'd like the latter, but it's probably the former. Number 1 is probably the most iconic old man in fighting games. Not only is he an icon for his series and its developer, but he's had many guest appearances in other video games and is ingrained in video game pop culture. Number 1, Heihachi Mishima from Tekken. He started out in his 50s in the first 2 games, being a final boss in the first game and a main character in the second. But his legacy appearance was cemented in the third game when we had a time skip, putting Heihachi in his 70s, turning his hair a graceful gray.
What is wrong with his hair?
It's fabulous and looks cool. It's like that either because of too much hair gel or someone once told him a secret that shocks him to this very day.
He's so surprised it stands on end.
He may have shown signs of aging with his hair, but he never slowed down, as all subsequent games show his Mishima-style karate is still just as strong. He utilizes powerful punches and kicks mixed with the Mishima staple electricity. A fan favorite attack is his Noogie, which is a combination of comedy and dominance, showing how much of a joke a serious fighter is to a veteran like Heihachi. His role in the series is probably the most important. He threw Kazuya off a cliff as a child, which led to him making a deal with the devil for survival and embracing his devil gene. Also, he runs the Mishima Zaibatsu most of the time, who puts on the King of the Iron Fist tournaments that bring all of these fighters together. And of course, he's in pursuit of the other main characters to take their devil gene for his own eternal life and because he hates them. He took on the role of master with both his son and his grandson, both of which turned out poorly in the end, but at least he can add teacher to his resume. With his son Kazuya, it was the famous throwing him off a cliff to teach him toughness incident that fully ruined their relationship and turned Heihachi into a hard-to-redeem father
Who doesn't deserve a son?
With his grandson, everything was going a-okay until he used him as bait to lure out final boss Ogre, and then everything was downhill from there. In the end, Heihachi's best student that he maintained a great relationship with was his bear Kuma, technically 2 bears. So he's an animal lover that helps teach domesticated pets to defend themselves. That makes Heihachi a pretty swell guy now, right?
Not totally, but it does redeem him a little.
Besides being in every Tekken game, his iconic nature has spread to other gaming universes. He's been a time traveler, baseball player, tennis player multiple times, shogi player, which was Pop Team Epic, not a game but I wanted to mention it, friend of Pac-Man, and PlayStation All-Star. I cannot say if it's his design, presence, fighting style, or a combination that makes him so memorable, but no doubt Heihachi is the top senior citizen in fighting games. So what did you think? Agree? Disagree? Who should have taken an early retirement, and what other fighting game seniors are still living their fictional life to the fullest? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and we will see you in the next video.